watching Netflix together is the go-to for so many couples. After a long day, watching a show together is a great way to hang out because you're doing something together. And doing something together is always better than doing nothing together, right? However, if Netflix is the only way that you two are connecting, then there's a lot of opportunity there. Have you ever stopped to think about what watching a show together is doing for your marriage? Like, what are you actually getting out of it? How is it nurturing, improving your marriage? Welcome to the Marriage Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's been through and still going through the trenches of motherhood myself, I get it. Life gets busy and sometimes your relationship takes a back seat. But guess what? You can feel like a couple while raising kids, and I'm here to help. Join me each week here as we dive into the messy but fulfilling world of marriage and motherhood. From navigating conflict to reigniting that spark, we're going to chat about it all. So, if you're juggling mom life with wife life, this podcast is for you. And hey, if you love what you hear, I'd be so grateful if you could rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Here's this week's episode. Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm so excited to join you this week and talk about something that I hear so often, and that is how couples are connecting in their busy lives after the kids are in bed by watching Netflix. Now, let me know if this is you too. So today we're going to be talking about signs that your marriage needs more than Netflix, okay? So it's so funny, right? Because if you think about how you hung out with your husband before kids, you were probably doing all kinds of stuff, right? Like, what were the things that you were doing? I want you to think about that. For me, it was like we were going to movies a lot. We were going hiking on our own. We would travel together. We would do fun new experiences together. We went ziplining together. We kayaked, all kinds of fun things, right? Things that become a lot harder once you become parents, especially if you don't have consistent, reliable help. Right? Let's say your parents don't live close to you. Or in my case, your parents are working still, right? They have their own lives, or they're just getting older and it's just not something that they can do as often anymore. Whatever the reason is, it can be really difficult to still connect. And when we're thinking about all the things we used to do, and we think about what's possible today with the kids, with the lack of childcare, it can be really easy to be like, well, you know what? Let's just watch Netflix, right? Because it seems like it's impossible to do anything else because your idea of connecting just doesn't quite fit into how life works today, right? Between work, the kids, the house, getting them to bed on time, doing family things, it just doesn't seem sustainable or even feasible in this season of life. And so, yeah, you're like, okay, you know what? Let's just watch Netflix. And then it becomes your go-to. It becomes the only way that you're actually connecting, okay? It was so much easier for you to maintain and nurture your relationship before kids. You were on regular dates, right? And let's be honest, you guys doing things alone is not happening unless it's after bedtime, right? Whereas before, everything you did together was kind of like a date, right? Because you're alone together, you don't have anyone asking you for snacks, what's for dinner. You didn't have fights to mediate. Your conversations with your husband weren't interrupted. You didn't have crazy messes to clean up, right? But then when the kids came into the picture, it was like going on an actual date and mustering up the energy to hang out together after the kids were in bed was something that didn't look that appealing. And when it did, it was like a luxury, right? Like it was like something that was more rare to come by. especially if you don't have help nearby, right? Where maybe you don't have trusted adults nearby, or like family, friends, or babysitter. The transition from being a couple to being parents is a lot. And I'm sure that you all can agree with me on that. You go from having tons of time to talk, joking around, laughing together, having so many inside jokes, going off on spontaneous adventures, or trying new restaurants, going to concerts and comedy shows, doing exciting things as kid-free adults, to having this massive list of responsibilities that you two are now sharing. Before, you were only responsible for your own laundry that you could probably just do once a week. I don't know about you, but our family does laundry almost like every single day, it seems like. And then back then you had light cleaning because you both know to pick up after yourselves. Whereas with kids, it's like you got people undoing the work that you're doing and working against you, it seems like, right? They're creating more work, and the laundry is never ending. As soon as we empty the basket into the washer, half a day later, it's full again. I mean, that's a slight exaggeration, but it really does feel like that, right? It's kind of like doing the dishes. It's like you wash it and then you look away and then you look back and it's full again, right? It's just crazy. And that's just life as parents. All that free time that you two had outside of work is now filled with caring for the kids, taking them to go do things like activities or new things to explore as a family, cleaning up the messes that they're making, teaching them things, right? And what ends up happening is that you start doing less things with each other as a couple, and you start settling into this groove where the bare minimum is your goal. For example, watching Netflix together. Watching it together is like the go-to for so many couples out there. And, there's definitely times where I hang out with my husband by doing this too. Like lately, we've been watching the latest season of Squid Game together. So there's nothing wrong with watching Netflix with your spouse. It could be really enjoyable. After a long day, watching a show together is a great way to not only unwind, but to hang out because you're doing something together. And doing something together is always going to be better than doing nothing together, right? However, what would be better is watching Netflix as one way of many ways to connect with your husband. If Netflix is the only way that you two are connecting, then there's a lot of opportunity there. Have you ever stopped to think about what watching a show together is doing for your marriage? Like, what are you actually getting out of it? How is it nurturing, improving your marriage, right? Because if you just strip away and just look at it for what it is, what is watching Netflix? It's sitting or laying down together, watching a screen, maybe laughing, maybe you're watching a thriller and it's like exciting, right? For a lot of people, this can look like minimal interaction. It's the next best thing to laying in bed with each other, staring at your own screens. At least it's the same screen. So you've got that going for your marriage, but it's not actually facilitating any conversation, any growth, any direct connection, right? And if this is the only way you're connecting, then I actually want you to pause and consider if it's actually enough for what you're wanting for your marriage. Now, to help you out with this, if you're wondering, I don't know if this is enough. Maybe it is, right? Because when we get into the groove of things, sometimes we can settle and just think that it is good enough because maybe you see a couple that's worse off, right? I've come up with 3 signs that you can look out for to figure out if it really is enough, or become aware if it isn't, so that you can actually do something about it, okay? So sign number 1 is that conflict with your husband gets really heated. and you two struggle to hear each other and work together to come to a solution. That is sign number one, that Netflix is not enough, okay? Because when we are truly connected with our spouse, conflict should get easier. It should get easier to understand each other. You are giving each other more of the benefit of the doubt. You are getting curious about what their perspective is, what their experience is, what their feelings are, and what they want, versus being quick to judge and criticize what they're saying, what they're doing, how they're different from what you're saying and doing and wanting. Okay, so that's sign number one. Sign number two is that you often feel resentful towards your husband. And if you're being really honest with yourself, the resentment is actually growing. And it's showing up in how you're interacting with each other on a daily basis. You're laughing together less. You two don't have as much fun together anymore. Maybe you've forgotten how to have fun together. And the vibe between you two feels a lot more businesslike and serious. You're really focused on just getting through the day. You know the analogy of like two ships passing in the night? That's kind of what you're doing. You may be working together and getting things done together, but in terms of feeling like a couple instead of just co-parents, instead of just roommates, it's not there, okay? And then the third sign is you've run out of things to talk about. So you just talk about the things that are on a need to talk about basis, like who's taking care of what chores, what your schedules are looking like over the next week, who needs to do pickup, what house stuff needs to get done, okay? It's very businesslike. But when you're connected, and when you are connecting in ways that add to your relationship, you have more things to talk about. There is more topics to bring up. There's more depth and intimacy in your conversations. It's not just about ticking off the boxes on what needs to get done on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. And it doesn't have to do with work, your kids, or the house, okay? If you're experiencing any of these, let this be your wake-up call to tell you that watching Netflix maybe isn't enough. I know it takes effort and energy to do anything else. Like, I get it, right? Like, I can get as tired as any other parent can, right? I've got 3 kids, not to mention a teenager, which is using a lot of my mental energy right now. Between puberty and boundaries and life lessons with actual real life consequences, I get it, okay? But I challenge you to come up with other ways to hang out. Find and try out different ways to spend time together in a way that actually leaves you feeling connected, okay? So I'm not saying don't watch Netflix. If you watch Netflix together, your relationship is doomed. I'm saying find things to do in addition to watching Netflix, okay? Not every date has to be something grand and novel like you used to. But that doesn't mean you can't still shake things up, okay? Think about what you enjoyed together when you didn't have kids. What were the things that you got out of it? Was it exploration, excitement, adventure, teamwork, fun? What are the qualities that you enjoyed about what you did together? And can you use those qualities to find stuff that you can do with your current season today? Whether it's subscribing to fun subscription boxes for dates, or you can learn a new skill together, you can find a new way to hang out and bring back that quality that you enjoyed together, the qualities that connected you two in the first place, okay? Because just because you have kids doesn't mean that the dating phase is over. The dating phase very much needs to stay alive. The flirting, the doing things together part, having fun, laughing, getting to know each other, having those deep conversations together. All of that is still necessary. Maybe you have less time to do it, but that doesn't mean don't do it at all, okay? And I know maybe thinking about this is like, gosh, that sounds really tiring. I don't have that energy. I don't have that kind of time. But you actually do, okay? Hear me out here. Because in the absence of those things, you're getting into more fights. You're feeling more disconnected. You're feeling more resentful. All of that takes energy. And when you put in intention, energy, effort, and time into your connection, that stuff fades away. It becomes less frequent. You as a couple become more resilient. So not only is it happening less, but you guys can deal with it a lot better. You are actually viewing each other in a more positive light instead of wanting to give them the side eye or roll your eyes when things aren't the way you want it to go. Okay? There is something really magical when we feel connected to our spouse. We view them in a much different light, which affects how we interact with them. But when we feel disconnected, it's almost like everything is dark, right? We view everything in a negative light. We're very quick to judge, very quick to blame, very quick to retaliate by getting defensive, criticizing, judging. So you do have the time and the energy. What I want you to do instead, though, is pause and do that upfront work, adding new ways to hang out with each other. And you guys can do this together, okay? I'm not saying this is just your responsibility. Dedicate that time, invest that time and energy to figuring that out. Bring back that joy, that excitement, that adventure, that sense of togetherness back into your relationship so that it can equip you with almost like a shield for your relationship against those moments where you experience challenges in your marriage. Because connection is what you lean on when you have conflict. Communication skills are, chef's kiss, okay? You need that. However, when you have connection to lean on and you combine that with communication skills, oh, it is so good. Okay? So I want you to pause this now and think about, what can I do differently? What do I want to try doing? You can ask your friends, you can Google it, you can message me, and we can brainstorm, okay? The next time you hang out, do something different, even if it means just slightly altering your Netflix date, maybe turning it into a private dinner and Netflix. Maybe you do dinner later, right? You have the kids eat dinner and you set up a picnic and you watch Netflix together. Can you somehow romanticize it a little more? Can you somehow bring more lightness and fun and that magic, right? Bring back that element of magic and romanticism into your daily lives now, okay? And then let me know what happens. So if you are loving this, send me a message. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was and what you are committed to doing after listening to this, okay? I am forever cheering you on and wanting only the best for you. Your marriage is not meant to die after having kids, okay? Deciding to have kids was meant to add to your life. It was never meant to be the source of your marriage breaking down. And if that's you, I need you to reach out and talk to me, okay? Because that's not okay. We need to change that. All right, that's all I have for you today. I hope this was helpful. Reach out to me. Let me know what you loved about this, what you're trying. Let's talk about all the things. And I will catch you back here next week. Bye. That's it for this episode. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. I would so appreciate that. And if you love what I share here, then you're going to love and want to join my free private Facebook community that's also called Marriage and Motherhood. I hope to see and connect with you in there. Otherwise, I'll catch you back here next week for the next episode. Bye!